Yeah, I definitely feel like Democrats have abandoned the BLM movement in favor of the immigration movement. And it's not like it's not an important issue. It's very important. But to me, it seems as if Democrats and even Republicans, this goes for all political parties. All these politicians, they only show up for Black lives when it's time to pander for our votes, or when it's sexy for a like or a retweet on Twitter or a like on Instagram. But in reality, there's not really many politicians that are consistently showing up for us. And I was extremely disappointed on Monday when we went down to the Department of Justice and there was not one single elected official in sight. And even if they were not able to make it, they could have at least tweeted or made an Instagram post in solidarity with us. They were able to make it to the border, as they should, but you couldn't make it to the protest or at least tweet in solidarity with us. So it goes to show me that people only show up for Black lives when it's beneficial for their platform. That's what it's making it seem like to me. And that's exactly what I said on Monday. And, I honestly am really disappointed in the freshman class in Congress for the Democratic Party. I am a Democrat, but I will hold elected officials accountable if they're not carrying out their job effectively. And they really failed Eric Garner. The Democratic, the freshman class in the Democratic Congress really failed Eric Garner. They could have used their voices more to put pressure on their colleagues at the DOJ to pursue some type of charges against Pantaleo, but they were silent. And I am disgusted. I'm exhausted. I am hurt. And, they just have to do better. And I called them out on social media, and I'm not afraid to do that, because with my generation, Generation Z, we will no longer just accept subpar efforts. That's been going on for way too long. We've been voting for these people, putting these people in office. They make all these promises to us, and then they don't fulfill them. So when they don't fulfill them, then we need to call them out and hold them accountable. And that's exactly what Black Lives Matter Greater New York is doing. So, yeah.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about the event you had that you said they didn't show up for?
So we held a rally in front of the Department of Justice on Monday, and basically it was to put pressure on the DOJ to pursue charges against Pantaleo. And, we were really hoping for a strong turnout in terms of solidarity from elected officials, but not one elected official showed up. We called Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We actually were one of the first organizations in New York to endorse her. We were a part of the first groups to endorse AOC. And, I understand there's a lot going on with Trump right now, but the issue is that I have with her is if you could not make it, it's not like you didn't know, because we called the office that day. We spoke to your reps. You knew what was going on in DC. You were there. You were in DC. Okay. And you couldn't at least made a social media post about it. You wait until the results come out and then you say, I'm sorry, this isn't right. Which your voice was needed that day. Your voice was needed prior to this, because it's not like this is something new. Everyone, all the politicians in DC, they had to know what was going on with Eric Garner's case. There's no way that they did not know. So unless you're not doing your job effectively, unless you're not really paying attention, because Eric Garner's case is a huge case in America that everyone has known about for the past 5 years now. So, with them not showing up to that rally on Monday, it just showed me, it honestly makes me feel like they don't care about Black lives, like only when it's beneficial for a like or retweet. And that's what I have a problem with.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you, I just wanted to tell you some of the stats we found, that Black voters felt left out by
Yeah.
politicians of both parties, and
Yep.
and
Yeah.
so what do you feel? Do you feel like you've been left out too?
Yeah, I definitely do. Especially, I'm a new voter. I'm only 19 years old, so I'm a part of Generation Z. And, honestly don't feel like any of the parties care about us. Like I said, when it's trendy, that's when they'll talk about Black people and Black lives. But when it's not so sexy and not so marketable, then they won't speak about us. Um, you know, Everyone likes to tiptoe around the situation with Black people in this country. But when it comes to the immigration movement, people are full on, I support them as they should. But you should keep the same energy for Black lives. Y'all are more worried about Trump. And he's saying he's saying some disgusting racist things. We all know this, but we all know Trump has been racist. This is nothing new. I mean, everyone knows this. But y'all are more worried about that than Black people being killed like animals in the streets, left and right, being brutalized every single day in the streets. Y'all are prioritizing Trump's racist remarks over Black lives. So, and I'm really exhausted with both parties, not just the Democrats, Republicans as well. And I already knew Republicans, they're not for us anyways. That's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I definitely feel left out as a Black voter, especially as a new Black voter in this country and a part of Generation Z. But what I still, nonetheless, I will still civically engage, get others civically involved. And honestly, the most important thing, is to hold your elected officials accountable. If you feel like they're not doing that, you need to, what they're supposed to do, hold them accountable.
And I have a couple more stats that I just want to get your thoughts on it. We found that according to Gallup data,
Hmm.
Black voters were the group most likely to say they strongly oppose deporting all undocumented immigrants, strongly oppose building a wall along the border,
Yep.
and most likely to consider themselves strongly in favor of a path to citizenship. So, what's your reaction to that?
Well, I'm a first generation American. My mom is an immigrant from Liberia. So I come from a family of immigrants, and I'm definitely in favor of citizenship. I'm against the wall completely. It's a waste of money, first of all. That money could be going in so many other places. Those resources could be allocated to the educational system, to impoverished communities across the United States. There's so many places where that money could go. So I'm honestly, I'm not for the wall at all. I believe it's a waste of time. It's a waste of our money. It's a waste of the taxpayers' money. So yeah, I'm definitely in favor of citizenship because immigrants have definitely been a part of the construction of this nation. Black people, African people, we have built this country for free, and brown immigrants came and also were a part of the development of this country. So all those stats I align with. And another problem, just as a side note, another problem I do have with this immigration movement is the anti-blackness within it, because there are Black people, there are people of the African diaspora at the border that are getting no type of coverage, and they're dealing with the same thing as these brown immigrants. And there's over 500,000 Black immigrants in this country from the African diaspora, and we're not receiving the same type of priority. No one really cares about us, and as a first generation American, and I see the repercussions of the things that Donald Trump is doing, I see how it has an effect on my family. I see it firsthand. And we don't have too many people advocating or showing up for Black immigrants. And that stems from a lot of anti-Blackness and prejudice. And I always speak about it. I'm not afraid to call it out. And thankfully we have, a few resources like in organizations like Undocu Black, which shines a light on African immigrants, people from the African diaspora that are here in the United States. But overall, there's just a lot of things that need to be fixed. And a lot of politicians, especially the Democrats that are going to the border, they need to make African immigrants a priority as well, just as much as brown immigrants, because African immigrants that are in this country, African Caribbean, they are 2 times more likely to be deported in this country. And these are just the stats because, when you come to America, when you're a Black person in America, you automatically lose whatever identity you have. You're not African anymore. I'm Liberian. But in this country, I'm not, they don't see me as Liberian. They don't see Caribbeans as whatever part of the Caribbean they come from. You're just seen as black, and everyone knows, with everyone that has common sense, rather, in this country knows the realities of being black in America. Police brutality, racial profiling, systemic oppression, and disenfranchisement. And when you are an immigrant in this country, you are more vulnerable to those things as well in terms of deportation. Because if a police officer stops you, the likelihood of you being gone is very high. And if you have a minor charge, a minor criminal charge, you're gone. And, we're 2 to 3 times more likely, that's our reality, to be deported. So the fact that, the Democrats are not shining a light on that as well is honestly disgusting to me. But like I said, people only care about Black lives when it's sexy. So,
do you think is there any politician that you would say has done like a good job or a better job than the rest? Someone you would highlight as someone kind of being your ally, or would you say there's no one like that?
Well, I would say Shavona Newsom. Although she is not in office yet, she is running for Congress here in New York. And honestly, I can say I've been working with her for 3.5 years now. And honestly, she has been a fearless advocate for Black lives and Brown lives and all oppressed groups. She's really on the front lines, and she definitely raises awareness on Black immigrants. And we have Black immigrants within our organization. So she learns, and she learns from me as well, because, I'm a first generation American, but obviously growing up in an African household, I know all these realities. So she takes time to listen to our issues and the things that affect us. And these are the qualities that I look for in a leader. And Shavona Newsom, I can honestly say that she is really, really genuine, and she honestly cares. And also, I would like to highlight Jumaane Williams as well, our public advocate here in New York. He's definitely done a good job of highlighting the realities of Black immigrants in this country. So, yeah.
Okay. And I wanted to tell you, again, get your reaction to this stat we found, which said that the top 3 issues for Black voters this cycle were healthcare, college affordability, and creating more jobs with benefits. Does that seem like, does that make sense to you, or have you found a different?
Oh, no, that definitely makes 100% sense. Me being from an impoverished inner city in New York, these are all of my realities. Um, And, these are things that are not impossible to solve. And, due to systemic racism, these issues are in place. In New York, for example, let's just talk about New York, because this is where I'm from. All the resources are allocated to Rikers Island, upstate, the Upper East Side, all the wealthy, predominantly white communities. And it leaves the inner city with nothing. Our schools, my alma mater, I went to, the campus was Boys and Girls High School. And the school inside of that was Nelson Mandela School for Social Justice. We didn't have textbooks. The laptops were broken. We had to scavenge for decent working laptops. We didn't have all the necessary tools to prepare us for a statewide exam called the Regents, which you have to pass 5 out of 7 in order to graduate, which is a barrier for inner city students in New York City, because we do not have the necessary resources. The money is being allocated in all the wrong places. Healthcare. There's so many people in my community that do not have insurance. I am uninsured. I'm uninsured. Here, I don't have any coverage in New York City. The only thing I have is my university insurance, which does not cover me outside of my university. And it's subpar anyways, but that's a whole nother conversation. Lastly, what was the last stat that you gave me?
Well, I said the top 3 issues they found were healthcare, college affordability, and jobs with benefits.
And jobs with benefits. And that's one of the most important things. People talk about Black on Black crime, which is, to me, and I will argue it down forever, it is a myth. It is intra-racial violence. So You put people in a community with no resources, no sustainable jobs, and then you tell them, pick yourself up by the bootstraps and work hard. How do you do that when you don't even have the foundation for boots? We have nothing in these communities. I speak to people that are in gangs or they're in the life of crime, but really they're in the life of survival. And they tell me if I had a sustainable job, I would not be out here. Most of these people that the media likes to demonize and criminalize, they're just doing all of this as a means to survive. It's a means of survival. When you grow up in an impoverished inner city or community, it creates a survival of the fittest mentality. And you have to do whatever you have to do to survive. And sometimes that means selling drugs. Sometimes that may even be killing people that look like you because it's a survival of the fittest mentality. And these realities can change. And the government, they know, they are well aware of things they can do to change this. But it takes elected officials that honestly care about our people to change that, to fight for resources in these communities. And that's honestly the most important thing. So all those statistics are true. And, I'm personally affected by all of them. And, college affordability, I'm a second year political science major at Hampton University. And it was definitely a journey to get to where I am. I had to do a lot of fundraising. I had to apply for a lot of scholarships, a lot of financial aid. It was a feat to get to my school. And by the grace of God, I made it. But that is not a reality for a majority of the kids coming out of impoverished inner cities across this country. So with the privilege that I have of being in college, I'm going to use that for the greater good. Once I graduate, I'm going to go to law school. Once I graduate law school, I'm going to run for office in my district. And people need, at the end of the day, people need elected officials that, one, can relate to their struggles. Two, a lot of times that look like them, especially when it comes to impoverished inner cities, because majority of the time we have people that come into our areas that are not from there. A lot of times they're white, and they come and they make all these promises, we feel for you, and they say all these things, but really you don't really understand what it's like because you're not from this community. But our people are sold on false promises, so they need an elected official that comes from these communities. And I can truly empathize with the lower class of America because this is where I've grown up. This is where I'm from. And I just honestly, I plan on changing all of that, but it's one step at a time. And with the people we have in office right now, because I still have a few more years left before I am able to run for office. With the people we have in office right now, I just encourage everyone to please, no matter how much you like them, remember why they're there. They are here to serve you. Stop treating these people like they're celebrities and treat them as elected officials, people that work for you, because that's their job. So don't be afraid to open your mouth and hold these people accountable if you feel like they're not doing their job.
Can I ask you, besides AOC, how many people did you invite to this? Is it like a very long list, or?
Yes. Oh, we sent out a whole press list. We added people on social media. There's such a long list. People, presidential candidates, Ilhan Omar. It's not just AOC. But the thing is, the thing that bothered me the most is because AOC is from New York. And we worked with her. That's what bothered me the most. Now, these other politicians that we reached out to, we don't have a personal relationship with. But AOC, Black Lives Matter Greater New York, has a personal relationship with AOC. And that's why it was so disappointing to me. But yeah, on social media, you can see, we tagged on Twitter so many, there's a whole list of politicians that we reached out to.
Okay, and then just for clarification, so she didn't come to your event, but afterwards, did she say or her reps or anyone say something to you about it?
No, we didn't hear anything afterwards. I didn't hear anything personally, and I'm the president of BLM Greater New York. I did not hear anything personally from AOC or her reps. I know that she did post about Eric Garner when the results came out, but I mean, it was, I don't know what you can call that, but when your voice was really needed, you wasn't there.
Um,
And
and so before, did they say, okay, thank you for the invitation, we'll look into it, that kind of thing, or what did they say when you invited them?
so when we invited them, we honestly we just didn't have a concrete answer. We didn't know what was going on. What all we know is that ALC was aware of what was going on. So if she couldn't make it, I understand that things happen. Once again, this is not an attack on her, but this is just holding her accountable, right? So if she could not make it, she could have at least tweeted about it. The power of social media. You could have used your social media handles just like you use it every other time to tweet about this. Like, you could have put pressure on your colleagues. Please, if you can't make it to that rally in DC, at least tweet about it. At least tweet the DOJ. Something. And it was nothing. It was nothing. I'm just really disappointed, with the results. I'm exhausted because, we, Black Lives Matter Greater New York, we've been working with the Garner case since day one. I'm friends with his daughter Emerald. I know his nephew. He still goes to my old high school. So this is just like a personal. I take it personally. The loss, it hurts. It really hurts, and that's why I was just so disappointed. When the freshman class in Congress, really of the Democratic Party, really could have shown up and used their voices, but they didn't. We marched, we protested, we stood in front of buildings, we shut down the highway, we shut down the FDR on May 14th. And, putting our bodies on the line for justice. And, although we didn't get the results that was needed, the fight is not long over. It's long from over. And we're still going to keep going regardless of who supports us and who shows up. I know that these efforts will not go in vain. I pray it doesn't. And for future generations of young Black people, this will not be the reality. That's what I'm working towards.
So when you say you didn't get the result that was needed, do you mean that the elected officials didn't show up, or what was the result that didn't get?
Pantaleo receiving the DOJ pursuing Pantaleo for civil rights violations and criminal charges. And also, that as well, elected officials not showing up for us. But yeah, it's a really, really sad time for New York City.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask to be sure. So you're friends with Eric Garner's daughter?
Emerald, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I met her about almost 2 years ago. 2 years ago at protest for Colin Kaepernick, and ever since we've been connected, and we've been supporting the family every step of the way, showing up to the court dates, protesting, rallying for them. It's Winkar. We're very close with the mother as well. We work very closely with his mother, and this is just a really sad time for them. I'm sad, but you can only imagine what the family is going through right now.